Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This is us here in the scene. We're back in Harrow Weald. Do you remember what this area is called?
Grim Dyke Pond.
Grim Dyke Pond. Okay, yeah, like that. Alright, so we're in the middle of the woods. We just got a bit of a fright because the dog snuck up on us.
It was a stealth dog.
Scared the life out of us. So let's see what other exciting things happen.
Alright. Canto 4, Chapter 8, Text 78.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Got the airplanes in Jurassic Park.
No. What is that?
Okay.
And this tree's weeping.
Crying in ecstasy.
Alright, text 78. When Dhruva Maharaj thus captured the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the refuge of the total material creation and who is the master of all living entities, the three worlds began to tremble. In this verse, the particular word Brahma is very significant. Brahman refers to one who not only is the greatest, but has the potency to expand to an unlimited extent. How was it possible for Dhruva Maharaj to capture Brahman within his heart? This question has been very nicely answered by Jiva Goswami. He says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the origin of Brahman, for since he comprises everything material and spiritual, there cannot be anything greater than he. In the Bhagavad Gita also, the Supreme Godhead says, I am the resting place of Brahman. Many persons, especially the Mayavadi philosophers, consider Brahman the biggest all-expanding substance. But according to this verse and other Vedic literatures, such as Bhagavad Gita, the resting place of Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just as the resting place of the sunshine is the sun globe. Srila Jiva Goswami therefore says that since the transcendental form of the Lord is the seed of all greatness, he is the Supreme Brahman. Since the Supreme Brahman was situated in the heart of Dhruva Maharaj, he became heavier than the heaviest, and therefore everything trembled in all three worlds and in the spiritual world. It does sound like we're in Jurassic Park, doesn't it? Cheapers. But anyway, interesting that Dhruva Maharaj's austerities, or in devotion as it were affecting the external world. You know, it's interesting. That also happened, I believe, with Ravan, didn't it? And the demigods complained to Brahma, and he had to say, what is it you want? You know? And so, yeah, that's interesting. It just reminds me, like, in our own efforts to do something on this path, we were discussing this, I think, with devotees recently, maybe even here, how we don't realize that how people who are not devotees or whatever, even devotees but not devotees, they do get a certain sense of vibe or aura from us due to the practices we do. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I was just saying that's on a lesser
What you're saying
scale.
is that a devotee has impact in the material world also, similar to the way Dhruva Maharaj.
Yeah.
Not similar, of course.
Well, yeah, on a different scale.
But the point is that by dint of performing devotional service, it creates a certain quality within the devotee that when people outside see it, they...
Yeah, you can get affected, you can feel a certain vibe of a person, you know. I mean, in this extent, it's extreme because Dhruva is doing such a level of meditation and austerity. It says to here the three worlds began to tremble.
Yeah, and the spiritual world.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Read on. The Mahatattva, or the sum total of the material creation, is to be understood to be the ultimate end of all universes, including all the living entities therein. Brahman is the resort of the Mahatattva, which includes all material and spiritual entities. It is described in this connection that the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead, is the master of both Pradhan and Purush. Pradhan means subtle matter, such as ether. Purush means the spiritual spark, living entities who are entangled in that subtle material existence. These may also be described as Paraprakriti and Aparaprakriti, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna, being the controller of both the Prakritis, is thus the master of Pradhan and Purush. In the Vedic hymns, also the Supreme Brahman is described as Antapravishtaha Shashta. This indicates that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is controlling everything and entering into everything. The Brahma Samhita 535 further confirms this. Andarantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. He has entered not only the universes, but even the atom. In Bhagavad Gita 10:42, Krishna also says, Vishtabhyaham idam kritsnam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead controls everything by entering into everything. By associating constantly with the Supreme Personality in his heart, Dhruva Maharaj naturally became equal to the greatest Brahman by his association, and thus became the heaviest, and the entire universe trembled. In conclusion, a person who always concentrates on the transcendental form of Krishna within his heart can very easily strike the whole world with wonder at his activities. This is the perfection of yoga performance, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 6:47. Yoginam api sarvesham. Of all yogis, the bhakti yogi who thinks of Krishna always within his heart and engages in his loving transcendental service is the topmost. Ordinary yogis can exhibit wonderful material activities known as astasiddhi, 8 kinds of yogic perfection, but a pure devotee of the Lord can surpass these perfections by performing activities which can make the whole universe tremble. Okay, so I just find it interesting that, it's like by meditating on the Lord and associating with the Lord within the heart, that, Dhruva became heavier than the heaviest, so therefore he was actually physically having very, very powerful and intense impact in the material world because of his connection with the spiritual world. Of course, it relates to what you were saying, but Prabhupada then says, a person who always concentrates on the transcendental form of Krishna within his heart can very easily strike the world with wonder at his activities. And I was thinking, Prabhupada, although maybe not intentionally, but is clearly speaking about himself. I mean, he struck the world and had such powerful impact in this world. And powerful people have such powerful impact, I guess you could say, like that.
And continues to, even though he's not physically here. Text 79. As Dhruva Maharaj, the king's son, kept himself steadily standing on one leg, the pressure of his big toe pushed down half the earth. Just as an elephant being carried on a boat rocks the boat left and right with his every step. Purport. The most significant expression in this verse is Prativabhaka, son of the king. When Dhruva Maharaj was at home, although he was a king's son, he was prevented from getting on the lap of his father. But when he became advanced in self-realization or devotional service, by the pressure of his toe, he could push down the whole earth. That is the difference between ordinary consciousness and Krishna consciousness. In ordinary consciousness, a king's son may be refused something even by his father. But when the same person becomes fully Krishna conscious within his heart, he can push down the earth with the pressure of his toe. It's like that saying, making a dumb man talk and a lame man walk. What's that saying?
There's a verse, and God just went out of my head.
That was a synopsis.
Oh man, yeah.
But
By the mercy of the spiritual master, or Krishna, or Lord Chaitanya, a lame man can walk, a blind man can see, and a dumb man can speak beautiful poetry.
Yeah, like that. So, that just reminds me of that, because
Mukam karoti vachalam pangum nongayati girim. And then there's different saying.
Because as the king's son, 5 years old, what's he really going to do, But age, caste, race, gender, these things are irrelevant in devotional service. And anyone, woman, man, young, old, Indian, American, whatever, can be empowered to do great things when they connect with God. When they connect up like a plug, plug in. Now, Prahlad Maharaj is another example. He's a kid as well, talked too much at school, but look what he did. He invoked the Lord. And what a form that was.
Swami was only 16 years old, and he spoke the Bhagavatam in front of an assembly of saintly sadhus.
Yeah.
People over there.
All right.
Okay. Text continuing.
Yeah, next paragraph.
One cannot argue. How is it that Dhruva Maharaj, who was prevented from getting on the lap of his father, could press down the whole earth? This argument is not very much appreciated by the learned, for it is an example of Nagna Matrika logic. By this logic, one would think that because his mother in her childhood was naked, she should remain naked even when she is grown up. The stepmother of Dhruva Maharaj might have been thinking in a similar way, since she had refused to allow him to get up on the lap of his father. How could Dhruva Maharaj perform such wonderful activities as pressing down the whole earth? She must have been very surprised when she learned that Dhruva Maharaj was concentrating constantly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart, that Dhruva Maharaj, by concentrating, could press down the entire earth like an elephant who presses down the boat on which it is loaded. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. So some logic that would say that basically if you can't do this, then you can't do that. Or if you did this, then you are likely to do that. On that side, no. And basically, Prabhupada pointing out that logic, that form of logic doesn't really make sense. It may have some relevance for sure, like if a tree grows here, then it's likely going to grow there, and if that tree is grown that way, then likely. So to some extent that kind of makes sense, but it kind of, I guess you could say, leaves out the Krishna factor, in the sense that it doesn't take into account that one who takes shelter of the Lord can become divinely empowered, or even just because someone was born in a family of illiterate people means that they're going to be illiterate. It doesn't. One can come in contact with something greater, and they can be lifted out of that situation. So here we see that by the contact of Narada Muni, Dhruva Maharaj became exalted. So actually it's the intervention of the spiritual master, there's another dog, intervention of the spiritual master that can connect one to Krishna and give them divine revelation like that.
I'm going to stop there.
Yeah, okay. Let's see. All right, yeah.
Let's stop there and resume. We might do another one along our path.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much. Kantaran Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Dhruva Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitai Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Krishna.